What would you write if it meant exposing your own wounds? My guest today, Pastor Jerrard Brown, didn't write a how-to book. He wrote a confession, a reckoning, a grace letter to everyone still carrying what he used to carry. Jerrard is a pastor. He's an author, and the first in his family to go to college, to graduate, to plant a church, and to write a book. But More Grace didn't start with inspiration. It started with blank pages, avoidance, and a conversation with God about why he needed to find someone else. Today, we're talking about what it really means to execute when the product is your own story, when the vulnerability is the cost of entry. But forgiveness isn't just a chapter, it's a whole breakthrough. This is Execution Lab. I'm DeAndre. Let's work.
I realized that the rejection of my father was the protection of God.
Wow.
He wanted to protect the investment. He wanted to protect what was being placed in us. He wanted to protect the journey. And so in order to do so, he had to take away what could impede on that journey.
IDs are cheap. Execution pays. Welcome to the Execution Lab. This ain't talk, this ain't theory. We don't wait till the path get clear.
All right, everybody, look, before we get started, I want to take a moment of personal privilege. For those who don't know, this is my beloved first cousin.
First cousin.
Look, and this is the first time that we've ever spoken to each other, actually spoken to each other. We chatted on Facebook and did comments and things like that, but we are blood first cousins, not somebody who's just called cuz.
You're right.
My first cousin, so I'm excited for this conversation, probably more than I have in what I've done and so forth yet. But Pastor Jerrard, just welcome to the podcast, man. Just tell everybody about yourself before we hop in.
Absolutely. I am Jerrard Brown. I'm from Rochester, New York. I have been pastoring for the last 17 years, married 20 years. I have two beautiful children. I'm a triplet, identical twin, fraternal triplet, makes with my sister. I just actually graduated college doing strategic leadership, getting my bachelor's degree. And then I was accepted to a master's program in strategic leadership. And so it's a combination of Christian leadership and civic leadership. And so I'm pretty excited about that as well. That's my story. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, let's hop right in. Your book is called More Grace. And so before we go anywhere else, break that down to us. What is this book actually about in the realest term that you can give us?
Yeah. So More Grace started off as a solution to a problem my wife and I was having with a group of people we were mentoring. They were having some conflicts. And so I was just like, I'm going to write the solution. And so I called the book Forgive Me You, and it was on forgiveness. As I'm writing the book, it became more about grace. The more I wrote, the more I realized that God wanted me to get deliverance and not so much to give a solution to someone else. So More Grace became a confession. It became a love letter to my wife. It became a help to other people who would read it. And so More Grace, in short, is just about a God that doesn't give up on us when we give up on ourselves. And then to make it even more practical, it's about having the ability to go beyond failure, life beyond messing up, life beyond failure, knowing that there's more to living on the other side of dying.
Let me ask you something. How many times have you told yourself, this is the year, and then watched another year pass without the same results? How many books are sitting on your shelf you've read but never applied? How many goals are still on your vision board from 2, 3, maybe 5 years ago? Look, and I'm not here to make you feel bad. I've been there. I know what it's like to have the vision but feel stuck in the same place. And here's what I've learned after years of studying this, living this, and helping others break through. You don't have an information problem. You have an execution problem. And the solution is not another course. It's not more motivation. The solution is getting clear on what exactly is blocking your execution, the patterns you can't see, the beliefs you don't even know you're carrying, and building a strategy that's specific to you. That's exactly what we do on the one-on-one execution strategy call. 60 minutes, just you and me, no fluff, no generic advice. We're going to go. We're going to get clear on exactly what you want, not what you think you should want. We're going to identify the hidden blocks that have been killing your execution without you even realizing it. And we're going to build a personalized action plan with real steps that you can execute immediately. Now listen, let me be clear. It's not a rah-rah motivation session. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. And if you're not ready for that, if you want somebody else, just going to hype you up, this is not for you. But if you're tired of planning and ready to start executing, if you know you're capable of more, you're done making excuses for why it hadn't happened yet. If you're ready to close that gap between knowing and doing, listen, scroll down or scroll back up and book your session right now, because here's the truth. Knowledge without execution is just entertainment. And on this call, the entertainment stops and the execution starts. I'll see you. Awesome. That's amazing. And you mentioned that in your responses, that being a series of firsts for your family.
Yeah.
First to college, first to ministry, first to write a book. Let me ask you something honestly. What does that feel like to do something your people haven't really modeled for you yet? Is that motivating or is that terrifying?
It's a lot of pressure. And I
Yeah.
think for some, and we might not admit it, but for some, it gives us like this performance anxiety
Yeah.
of wanting to outperform what wasn't done. Now, myself and my twin brother actually graduated college as well. He was the
Mhm.
first, but then I'm the first to go on to get the master's and the first to write the book and things
Yeah.
of that nature. And so I feel like it's a setup for my children to understand that just because someone else didn't do it doesn't mean you can't. And
Mm.
so being able to go beyond the status quo and realizing that we're not here trying to keep up a curse,
Yeah.
or me even going on, it wasn't even about breaking a curse. It was proving to myself that, for one, i can I can do this. For two, I got a wife and kids and we
Yeah.
need more money. And so
Yeah.
it just so happened that part of that, is go to school, finish
Yeah.
college, get your papers in order, things of the stuff that wasn't taught to me growing up. And for us, it was just get a job. Finish high school and get a job. Do what you got to do, And so being the first is a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure because if you're the first, you set the tone for everyone else that comes
Mhm.
after. And so in that instance, it becomes weighty, very weighty.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me about those first 90 days. I know when I've written my books, you kind of saying, okay, I don't know if I really want to write this. I don't know if I'm really committed to fully. And then you start thinking, okay, it's already books out there about this. Why me? Why should I write my book? So tell us about maybe that first 90 days. You had mentioned that you were telling God, look, tell somebody else to do it.
Yeah, get somebody else to do it, for real.
Tell somebody else to do it, man.
Get
Like,
somebody
what did
Man, it was writing and then deleting. It was writing,
Yeah.
then deleting. Then it was outlining and being like, nope. Those first 90 days, it just, you get this book title and you know what you want to say, but you're not quite sure how to say it. How
Yeah.
deep are you going to go? Who is it going to implicate?
Yeah.
As you
Yeah.
tell this story,
That's right.
and so, because while it is my story to tell, because it's my lived out experience, it still has the potential to be invasive to someone
Mhm.
else who wasn't ready to tell their side of the story. And so it's about documenting my experiences, making sure that my experiences are not aligned with falsehood. And I think that's the first 90 days, it became a falsehood book. It became just, this happy-go-lucky book about forgiveness and loving everyone and being okay with, life and
Right,
forgiveness and
right,
going
right.
on. We're realizing that forgiveness is messy, grace is messy, and it's not just easy to be like, oh, let's just move on. But being able to process that. Even my wife some time ago shared that, like, hey, you think forgiveness is just forgive and you get going. But
Right,
after you
right.
forgive, now you have to process what has happened and get through that process and trying to see where do you create these boundaries. And so the 90 days felt freeing at first until I got to about the 80th day when nothing was on the paper,
Mm.
where I had
Mm.
wrote one chapter and walked away from the book.
Yeah.
Like, all right, that's all I got. I feel like I got a writer's block really quick.
Yeah.
Really quick, because again, I just didn't know how vulnerable I wanted to be. But the more free I got, the more easy it had become for me to be vulnerable. Then writing became liberating.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the process of writing that book, we feel sometimes God give us the book for other people. Sometimes it's for us.
It's for us.
So you freed yourself in it.
I did. I did.
I
I
know
did.
that's
I
right.
did. I did.
So
Yeah.
so you work through those beginning phases, those first 90 days, and now the pen is flowing. And you said you did something that you probably shouldn't have done. You said you placed the book in someone else's hands, and you started listening to outside opinions instead of following what God was speaking to you. So tell me about that story. What happened, and what did it cost you?
Yeah, so I got a writing coach who is absolutely
Okay.
phenomenal. She's probably going to watch this, but she's an absolute phenomenal writing coach, and so a lot of insight that she gave me and advice and things of that nature was really good,
Yeah,
but it was really practical understanding. So
yeah,
while she encouraged vulnerability, I didn't feel led to be as vulnerable, and
gotcha.
so more Grace is actually an expanded edition because I released a version of More Grace in a digital copy, a
Okay,
Kindle version.
yeah,
Released that some time ago, some years ago. But when you read it, it has nothing to do with Jerrard. There's no
hmm,
real vulnerability. It's just a pastoral
yeah,
approach to forgiveness and dealing with offenses and things of that nature. And so I went back to that book and I'm like, hey, this isn't me. And I believe I placed trust in someone else's hand to kind of tell
mm,
me what I need to say instead of asking myself. And when I say asking myself, I mean Holy Spirit.
yeah,
What do you want me to say? What do I need to say that's going to be impactful? And
yeah,
already this book has done probably double the impact than the first book in
yeah,
just a short time that it has been out because I was obedient and I decided to let me just figure this out. Let me not listen to other voices and what they
hmm,
think I should do. Let me
yeah.
just do it.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
So you said uh, that you were stuck because you hadn't properly processed your own pain, and that's a remarkable thing to admit. What does properly processing actually look like? How do you know when you've done it? How do you know when you've done it enough to move forward?
I think it's the impact of me being able to talk about it. I don't think people realize that triggers are pocketed pain. And what I
Mm,
mean by that is it's pain that you put in your pocket and it only affects you when something reminds you of it. And so
yeah.
it's the trigger is like trauma that's suppressed but
Hmm.
not delivered.
Hmm.
So I am still bound by that thing. I'm still hurting by that thing. So every now and again it's triggering or when I try to speak about it, how freely can I speak about it, right? How far removed am I from the thorn that I'm
Mm,
able to actually address that? And so for me, it was processing pain. But in the time that I wrote the first book of More Grace and then the expanded edition, I went through hell.
yeah.
It's a different experience. I went through life in a way that I never thought I would ever go through because I had this idea that I was this preacher and I was smart, I was intelligent, and I was this and I was
Yeah.
that. I'm a
Yeah.
dad, I'm a husband. And so finished that book maybe in 2021 and now it's 2026. And in that time, I became a bad father, a bad husband, a
Hmm. Hmm.
horrible pastor, and I had to process how did life get like this? And that's when I started experiencing more grace for the journey, more
Yeah.
grace from my wife, more grace from my children, more grace for myself. And so this book, it became this personal journey of process and elimination. What do I have
Yeah.
to eliminate? What do I have to get rid of?
Wow, that's good. And it sounds like to me, I'm just making this up, and I'm not trying to put words in your mind. It sound like the first book was a manual, and it
Absolutely.
sounds like the second one is your message.
Absolutely.
So the
100%.
manual is good. This is how you should do it. This is what to do. And the second one was, this is my message.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
this is
100%.
this is my message. And actually, you can take that AGE off. This is my mess.
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I
It's my
need more
mess.
grace for.
That's why I
Yeah.
call it grace is messy because it's this
Yes.
messy thing that God gives you all these things that you don't believe that you deserve, right?
Yeah.
And he works these things out. There is no way that I'm in my right mind right now. And I blamed
Mm,
everybody for the journey. Even in the book, I talk about how I made excuses because my father wasn't there, that I was
Yeah.
becoming this person, and I was doing all these things, and I struggle with my own confidence as a human being and a man because I didn't have that influence. And all of
Yeah.
those are excuses. When God
Yeah.
gives us the grace to literally get ourselves together and come to a point in Christ that we're able to be an example of something that we never had. So
Mm.
now I'm the father that I never had. I'm the
Yeah.
husband that I never saw play out in my own home. And kind of that's where, again, more grace becomes even more important.
Amazing. And you mentioned devotion that's huge for you and that you maintain sobriety through your faith. I want to honor that. Can you talk about what that looks like in practice? What is the daily structure that keeps you grounded?
Yeah, I think for one, I always tell myself, don't forget to remember. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes God takes certain people to a place and they get real stuck on that place. Their pinnacle, right? Their
Yeah.
pinnacle of
Yeah.
ministry, the pinnacle of life. And this is a high point, and this is what I've been trying to get to. My friend said something to me while I was writing this book, and I also mentioned it in the book. He said to me that healing is not a destination, it's a journey. Right.
Yes.
And so I had to realize that I'm not looking for this moment to feel healed. I'm not
Mm.
looking for this moment to feel like everything is okay. And
Yeah.
because I'm not looking for a feeling, devotion becomes that much more important. Right. The way I pray, how I seek God, how I read his word, how I value quiet time
Mm.
with the Father so that he can minister to me. And I realize that those moments are not always emotional.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm gonna be honest, cousin, I cry,
Yeah.
right? I'm weeping because of his love and his kindness. And sometimes I'm crying because of my own conviction and my own repentance and my own, better. And then
Mm.
sometimes I'm not doing any of that. Sometimes I'm just there in his presence, listening to a worship song, writing some notes, getting my mind in a place where it's centered on Christ, and then because the Bible says, whatsoever things are pure.
Yeah.
Think on these things, and so keeping my mind in that place, devotion became more important for me in the last 3 years than
Mm.
ever before. Keep in mind, I've been pastoring for 15, 17
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
And so I've been preaching since I was 15. So
Yeah.
in ministry since I was 15 years old. And in the last 3 years, I've been able to get into a rhythm of devotion. Not saying I didn't pray. I pray all the time.
Yeah.
I led
Right.
prayer groups. I counseled. I did all of these things. But what good is that if I don't have a rhythm, rest, and worship?
Yeah.
So for me, devotion became that safe place where I could say whatever I needed to say and be myself rawly before the Father, and that he can address me. Because I think sometimes as pastors, we're always looking for God to address others.
The
How
people.
you
Yeah.
going how you gonna
Yeah.
fix them? How
Yeah.
you gonna save them? What do you want me to preach on Sunday? When you preach Sunday after Sunday, what word is gonna be for them? Well,
Yeah.
God began to deal with me. He's like, any word I give you in this quiet time is for us. I'll speak to you for them, but this is for us. And so
Right.
having a moment that's just for me and God helped center me,
Mm.
stabilize me, bring myself to some serious resolves that I needed to address.
Wow, that's amazing. And kind of transitioning to the breakthrough part. And that was saying I heard years ago, and it said unforgiveness is like you drinking the poison and waiting on someone else to die. So it's really not hurting them but you,
Yeah.
even though you're expecting it affect someone else. So tell me about forgiving your father. You mentioned it earlier.
Yeah.
You said this was a breakthrough,
Yeah.
that you accepted what he gave was his best and that God allowed things to go the way he did to protect you. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
So talk about that a little bit.
So growing up without a dad, but then it's kind of like growing up without a dad, but your dad is there, if
Yeah,
that makes sense. So he's not far away. You know where he is, but you're at a point where you just don't want to be
I got
bothered.
you. Mhm. Yeah.
um, for me, dad always had a relationship with my twin brother very well. My twin sister, yeah, I call them twins, but my triplet, the sets.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
My twin sister is a daddy's girl. So no matter what, daddy could do no wrong. I'm a daddy's
Mhm.
guy. I love my dad. but I've always had this strain in our relationship. It's just ever
Yeah.
since I was a kid. I remember being a little boy not liking him. Like I
Mhm.
couldn't wait, and I'm sure he's
Yeah.
gonna watch this, but we're healed now. I couldn't
Yeah.
wait for
Hey,
him to
it's all
find
good.
look, I couldn't wait for him to find another jail cell because that means we was gonna be good for 2 or 3 years. Yeah, like it was just rough. And I remember when he finally left, and it wasn't because he was in jail, but it was because my mom was done.
Yeah.
She was done with him. It was like the best day of my life. Like I remember sitting on the couch where he would normally sit, picking up the remote that he used to keep in his hand saying, "Yeah, it's
Yeah.
my remote now. Like
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
my seat," things of that nature. Not even considering, because I'm a kid, but not even considering the turmoil that my mom would have to go through. And so
Mm.
then to grow up with my own family, still resenting this man for not showing up, not being there, not really being supportive. He showed up when I won awards,
Yeah.
right? When I got big awards, he showed up. When the school was acknowledging me, he showed up. When I performed in plays, he tried to show up. But
Mhm.
whatever the case was, it gave me performance anxiety
Yeah.
because now, in order for people to show up for me, I have to perform.
Wow. Wow.
Right. And so, big secret that everybody's about to have right now. I believe that's going to be my next book called
Yeah.
Performance Anxiety.
Yeah.
But
Hey, you heard it here first.
you heard it here first. And so I just became a great performer. When I began to heal, I stopped performing for people and I realized, oh man, I'm treating people with an expectation that I had on my dad. That as
Mhm.
long as I perform well, you'll celebrate me, you'll see me, all of these great things. The healing came when I was at a church. A well-known pastor came to visit our city, and I'm there, and how they sit the pastors up front, and
Yeah.
I didn't even want to sit up front because I knew the gift of the pastors. I don't want to sit up here because I don't want to be bothered. But
Right.
anyway,
Right.
I sat up there. He calls me up and he gives me what we would consider a prophetic word. I'm not sure of your reformation, but he gives me a prophetic word. And in this particular prophetic word, he tells me, your dad was sick.
Wow.
He loved you,
Wow.
but he was sick.
Yeah.
Him being sick made it impossible to take care of you.
Yeah.
He said, I want you to forgive him because God protected you by him not raising you. You were able to get something
Mm.
that you would not have gotten if he was around.
Yeah.
It took me almost 3 or 4 years to understand that prophetic word. From that moment, I forgave him, but I didn't understand that had dad been there, I may have been doing the same things that dad
Mm.
was doing. I may have been doing the same things uncles and aunts were doing. And because he was not there, that exposed us to another side of the family. So now
Yeah.
all we got is my mama's side,
Yeah.
people who go to church, deacons, missionaries, singers, all these preachers, things of that nature. So now we're exposed to a different lifestyle that we would not have
Yeah.
had we still been in his care.
Yeah.
And so I realized that the rejection of my father was the protection of God.
Wow.
He wanted to protect the investment. He wanted to protect what was being placed in us. He wanted to protect the journey. And so, in order to do so, he had to take away what could impede on that journey. So, what was ugly became something very, very beautiful. And to this day, I have forgiven him. He supported the book launch. Dad is
Oh.
crazy. He's just like, I know you went in on me on that book. I'm like, well, maybe a chapter. I said a few
Right.
things,
Right.
What's crazy about that cousin is that he was okay with it.
Yeah.
He's just like,
Yeah.
even if it was the worst of the worst, I just need you to tell the truth,
That's good.
and that's healing.
Yeah.
That's healing as well.
No, that's amazing. So, and you said something there that's kind of universal in any situation. Sometimes rejection from God is protection of God. I know there's some people out there right now, and not to go too deep on this, 'cause I think we
Yeah,
can go there, but we feel like we are rejected. Sometimes God says, "Yeah, you feel like you're rejected, but you really protected."
that's right.
You ready? And that feel like that in the moment.
No, no, it doesn't. No, it
It
doesn't.
feel like I'm being rejected.
Exactly, exactly.
Show me the protection, God. Let me
Yeah,
show me God.
show me the other side of
On the
this,
other
you
side. Yeah, I
know?
don't want to
Yeah.
work on this shoulder. You give it to me. Let me
Yeah,
ask you, so the book started as something you were helping others work through, and then you realized it was for you first.
yeah.
What do you say to someone who's trying to lead or help others, but they really haven't done their own work yet?
It's gonna drop. It's gonna fail only because trying to help other people without you getting the proper help or having the proper footing is going to cause you to drop other people. And I say that to
Mm,
say this, it's like you both need a life jacket. You trying to help somebody put on their life jacket and you don't have your life jacket.
yeah, yeah.
You're going to drown trying to help save someone else. And I think, especially for people in our field as preachers or ministers of the gospel of anything, we have this save people syndrome. Save people first. And what happens with that is it's like we just want to help everybody and we want to save everybody, even as if that's at the expense of us drowning, of us dying, of us not properly carrying our own cross. And one of the
Mm,
things God spoke to me, I remember going through a really rough season in marriage, and the Holy Spirit spoke to me. He said, you're dying for this church, because I was
mm,
just doing everything, church, 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 church. We're
mm.
about to get um uh kicked out of our house. And I'm like, but we got to pay the rent for the church because
Yeah,
the people got to come to the church and, things of that nature. And so priorities all jacked up, and he's like, you're dying for a church that I already died for.
wow,
Your responsibility is to now die for your wife.
wow,
Die to your desires, die to what you want, so that you could honor and please her. Just like Christ died for the church, I'm supposed to die for her. And
yeah.
so what Christ was actually saying was, hey, you're no good over here if you're no good over there.
Mm,
And I think, in a very practical way, for those who may be starting a business, those who may be starting a new work, and you haven't done the groundwork for your own emotional health, your own emotional stability, and not saying that you're going to be perfect, because no one is. No one is perfect. No one's got it all figured out. But I think that before you get started, you should know what you want to start and why you want to start it.
what's one piece of execution advice? They say it's the execution lab. So what is one piece of execution advice that you give to someone right now? They may be in what I call the messy middle. And so there's someone who's maybe 6 months in and they're stuck and they're really not sure if they can keep going on. They got the plan, they got the blueprint, but they're just stuck. What's one piece of execution advice? What's one thing that they can do to help them transition out of that?
I think they have to remember the why.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if many of us remember the why. If you're in the middle and you're stuck, you got to remember why you're doing this. When I got
Mm,
that writer's block, I had to start thinking to myself, okay, why am I doing this? Because am I doing this to be seen? Am I
yeah.
doing this to be famous? Or am I doing this to help myself and other people? And then
Mm,
once I identify the why, everything else falls into place. I'm
yeah.
doing this to honor God. I'm
Mm,
doing this because I'm trying to be obedient to what he told me to do. And so if it fails, if it drops, that's not on me. That's a God problem,
yeah.
right? If no one receives it and loves it, it's not on me. I was obedient and I did what I was supposed to do. And so I feel like people who get in that messy middle, they forget the why. They forget the why. And so in order for you to execute, you may even have to journal it. You may have to write a journal saying, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is why I must do what I do, what I need to do. And I think that's going to help with execution. I had to do it and I had to start from, you call it the messy middle, but I wrote a whole book and had to start
It's
over.
the- it was just a mess, wasn't it? It
Yeah,
was
it was just a mess.
just
Yeah, I was like, all right, let's go back to the beginning.
That's
Yeah.
right. Start this thing over. Let me definitely want to give honor. You mentioned her a couple of times. You said your wife helped you the most. You
Yeah.
said that she affirmed you in ways that you didn't know you needed. So tell me about that. What did affirmation look like, especially coming from your wife?
It was reassuring. It was accountability as well. Believe it or not, her affirmation was accountability, that push to keep going. And there are moments where, you'd be like, I don't really deserve the affirmation because I don't feel
Yeah.
like I've done the work or done what I needed to do. But just knowing her support and her push, and I actually dedicated the book to her
Mm,
just because there are many times where she taught me what God's grace and love and the image of God's mercy looks like just from her own love and ability to navigate. I mean, we have a church and all glory to God. We got tons of people coming into this building. That could be a lot because then she has to
mhm.
share her husband,
That's right.
and she shares her husband sometimes with the city. He's got to go do a funeral. He's got to
Yeah.
MC a program. He's got to preach a conference. He's got to do this and do that. And so her support, I think some people say, well, her support means the world to me. The world
Mm,
means nothing to me.
wow.
Her support means forever for me. It is just one of those things that helps me to keep going. And she doesn't just support me because, oh, this gonna bring money in the house,
Yeah.
but sometimes she reminds me that, hey, I'm a member of your church too.
Mm,
You're my husband, but you're also my pastor,
yeah. Yeah.
and so, and believe it or not, that's affirmation within itself. Whether
Yeah.
she said I was a good pastor or a bad pastor, the
That's
affirming
right.
is I'm acknowledging you as someone who
Wow.
watches over my soul. And so that's weighted, and so
Yeah.
it means everything plus.
Awesome. And you said that you define success by who's impacted and who's changed, not necessarily about revenue and metrics. I'm just to be honest, we definitely want to make money from projects and things that God gives
Yeah.
us. But your measure of success, you say you define about who's impacted, who's changed. How do you measure that? So how do you know when the book is doing what it's supposed to do?
I think I look for the testimonials. I work a lot in the nonprofit, and so we have what you
Yeah.
call KPIs, and
Mm-hmm.
and it's just how do you measure how well you're doing? And so sometimes I'm like, okay, sitting on the edge of my chair, like, is anybody gonna tell me how the book is going? But gratefully, I have gotten people who are quoting on their Facebook
Good.
words, and then people are texting and they're inboxing, and I got someone that I didn't even know that's from down south in Charlotte, I believe, who actually purchased the book on Amazon, and she was on TikTok
Oh
raving
wow.
about this book,
Wow.
and she's like, "Man, the first 2 chapters got my life together."
Wow.
Snatched me right up, and so those moments feel good. I had a beta reader, which means I had somebody who read before I
Mm-hmm.
launched out the
Mm-hmm.
book and gave me
Mm-hmm.
some advice, and then once the book got I had a guy that read it before my book launch, and just every chapter, just how he chopped it up and shared the impact and the insight and the hurt, the
Yeah.
embarrassment, the shame, because this book is going to pull all of that out. It's going to pull out your
Yeah.
shame. It's going to pull out laughter. It's going to pull out the hurt. It's going to pull out forgiveness and love. And okay, now I know what I got to do. I had one pastor reach out and say, okay, I got a lot to do after reading that book. I got a
Wow.
lot of meetings to set up because I need to be free because I identify unforgiveness as a trap from
Wow.
Satan. It is a demonic stronghold that wants to keep us locked in this place
Wow.
that's not free.
Yeah.
And so it's a journey that we all must. It's that serious. We must take it.
Yeah, those some serious KPIs right there, I tell you.
Yeah, yeah,
Look, you can't beat social proof.
exactly,
It's hard
exactly.
to beat that, man. That is sincere, that's real. You mentioned more plans for, different writings and possibly some plays and hosting
Yeah,
some worship experiences around grace and deliverance, so talk about that a little bit, the vision moving forward.
yeah. So we actually just had what some people call the book launch. I had launched the book January 1st. The book was
Yeah.
out, but this was like the official push of the book launch, and there we called it the Grace Encounter.
Mhm.
This Grace Encounter was actually liberating. We recorded it, but we didn't go live.
Yeah.
And there we did worship. We had a panel guest of people who talked about grace. And cousin, the deliverance and the breakthrough that happened in that room was something phenomenal that
Mm,
you can't deny the impact of it. And I don't think it was
yeah,
just because of the book. I believe it's just a God moment. And I
that's right.
believe I'm in the middle of a kairos. And so seizing that means thinking through, okay, what else do I need to do? What is there a recovery room that we need to have
Mm,
after you read, more grace for deliverance, and
yeah.
how do we partner with your breakthrough? So none of this is well thought out, but it's in prayer that we're really trying to see, okay, God, what's next for more grace? Because I don't want it to just fall, to the ground, because I believe it's essential. And so, yeah, we just gonna pray and see wherever the Lord leads.
Awesome, awesome. So is there anything, that you would like people to know about the book or about the process that we didn't touch on? Anything we're leaving out you definitely want to share?
I think more than anything, it's so funny because when you read the book, there's a part in the book where I'm just like, hey, have grace for the grammatical errors.
Mm,
Well, I'm a stickler for grammar and things
yeah,
of that
yeah,
nature. Anybody that know me, I'm big on like that. I do
yeah,
believe that sometimes when you're writing, and you're pushing a workout, I did not call for an editor. I did not do it the way other people would have done it. This is self-published.
yeah,
And so in doing so, since this is a business podcast, you save money,
yeah.
right?
Why
You
not?
save nothing. I wouldn't want somebody else to kind of come along and, help me out with that. But I would just say trust the journey. And if it doesn't look like the way you want it to look, it's okay to start over.
Mm,
Even after you push it out and it's out there, it's okay to be like, hey, new edition.
that's right.
Hey, new revelation. Hey,
Yeah,
I healed a little bit more since that last book. Let me start over again,
right. That's right.
and not being afraid of to start over.
Awesome. Second edition.
Yeah, exactly.
Second edition. Yeah, I do some book publishing for some authors that would, definitely want to get self-published, and sometimes that happens. And sometimes to put it out, hey, I got something else to add. Okay, well, we can make the change.
Yeah.
Let's put it
Yeah.
out there again. Well, get the title and change it up a little bit and launch it again.
Yeah.
Um, last question, and then I definitely want to share with the people how they can get a copy. Um, if there was one thing, so if there's individuals that have an idea, if there's one thing that you can tell them today to go from idea to execution, what would that one thing be?
Start somewhere.
Yeah,
And I think that sounds loose and not as weighted, but for most people, we'll have an idea and then we'll procrastinate because of the idea of perfection. I
yeah,
want it to be perfect. I
yeah,
want it to be done. But in order for it to get from an idea to an execution, I got to start somewhere, even if I'm starting in the middle. There's some chapters in the book that I had to reorder and realign because I
yeah.
wrote it before I added it to the book. And so I think it's always going to start somewhere and then give yourself grace. It's not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And whatever you push out is not going to be for everybody, whether it's hair product, whether it's a book, whether it's an invention, whether it's, a counseling something, a therapy, whatever you're trying to push out, it's not going to be for everybody, but it's going to be for somebody. And
Yeah,
that somebody's going to be changed by what comes out of you. And so I think starting somewhere is the first part.
that's good, man. We must be cousins, cause I tell them all the time. Two things. One, done is better than perfect. Just two things. Done is better than perfect. And two, just get 1% better every day.
Yeah.
1%. Do something. Read a book, read an article, send an email. Make a phone call.
Yeah.
Set up, do a presentation. Do one thing. Do one thing towards your goal every day and get 1% better every day. So, like I said, we must be cousins. We got those kindred spirits. Cause when you were talking,
Trust me.
I feel like I'm saying that. But cousin, look, man, I definitely have enjoyed it. Man, I appreciate it. Y'all. Hey, just a reminder, guys, this is our first time talking.
First time.
First time physically talking, man. Much success to your book. Tell the people how they can follow your book and also follow your journey on social media.
Absolutely. So I am on Amazon. More Grace by Jerrard Brown is on Amazon right now. My journey, find me on Rock Hope. Rock Hope on Facebook and Rock Hope on TikTok. I use that to share a lot of information about my book, a lot of things about our church, some encouraging words. That's my handle, Rock Hope.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. Hey, guys, thank y'all for tuning in. Do want to remind you guys to like and subscribe. Hit that button down there. That lets YouTube know, hey, you want to keep seeing videos like this. Thank you so much. Until next time, go get it.
Ideas are cheap. Execution pays. Welcome to the execution lab. This ain't talk, this ain't theory. We don't wait for the